Yes, it is such an incredibly powerful experience to go through, and there's such a, when when the culture begins to make it safe for us to share this, for sure it helps support the healing. So I'm so grateful that this is unfolding across the world, that we're able to come forward and speak our truth, because so much of that experience of all trauma, there's a way where trauma can, not in every case, but can lead us to internalize shame. Not only because, we may be forced to keep the secret, or we may have a desire just not to share it because of shame. And this is so important, because we do want to release that shame. And when we see within the culture others having the courage to speak it, it helps us dissolve some of that shame and then be able to share it. Because trauma, as we know it's stored in our cellular memory. So I like to think of the body as having its own narrative, and it's communicating to us at all times. And I honor the body as, I honor the language of the body, and feel it's important to, when trauma is lodged therein, it will communicate. It'll tell us, whether it's showing up as like racing heart, or, anxiety disorder, or it's showing up as a muscular injury or something like that. It's going to communicate something. So I find the ability to speak this experience to be so powerful, because then it pulls it out of the body. It pulls it from being lodged in the cellular structure to being expressed. And it's on some level a little bit easier for us to begin to address it if it's outside of us, and we're connected to it, of course, but now we're able to see it. I like to think of narrative therapy and art therapy as wonderful modalities for this, because you're taking the story and you're putting it on paper or whatnot. And that was true for me, that this book definitely felt on some level like narrative therapy for me. But there's a safety to that of being able to say, okay, so I've moved it out of my body, and now I can go by telling the story, by finding a safe container, right? We want to make sure that when we're sharing, that there's a safe container to that. So whether it's a therapist, or a different type of healer even, or a dear friend, or someone that is going to hold the space sacredly for you. But the opportunity to release it by way of explaining it or sharing it. Also, going back to the piece on trauma we were talking about before, we want to be mindful too. So maybe we don't want to go into details. Maybe we just want to say, hey, this happened. And that was true for me. For years, I had a therapist, I literally said, yeah, so this happened, I was raped, and I'm not going to talk about it. I'll talk about it at some point. I just said, I told you, it's out, I told you, but I can't talk about it. I can't go into the details, I can't. And we have to honor ourselves, because we don't want to be re-traumatized, right? So we have to be mindful of the process. But it's such a powerful experience, because on one level, and this really was what Inanna taught me, was that she shows up in her mythology, because she has many beautiful myths and hymns. She shows up in her mythology embodying a healthy second chakra. So the second chakra, right, is our sexual organs and our creative center. But she showed me, here was a feminine energy representing what does a healthy second chakra look like? And she has this unapologetic energy. The mythology is quite, let's say, it's quite overt in discussing her holy sexuality. And so what that implied to me was that she had no shame. And I thought, okay, how can we get there, And understanding for me, it was like, I took this, and this may be helpful to listeners who have gone through this. When I went through that, after a while, after I was able to deal with some, greater levels of healing, I came to understand that experience of sexual violation for me became an opportunity in real time, in this incarnation, to heal a historical a historical trauma to the second chakra that I've endured throughout time, and to take this experience in the now and say, I'm ready to heal this. I'm taking my power back, and I'm resolving, I'm clearing, completely releasing the shame I have ever had about who I am, what I have endured, what has been done to me, and my own sexuality. So sometimes when we shift our perspective of, it's a little bit like inviting in, okay, this was a very challenging experience that happened. How can I see the medicine in it? And we invite in this, again, this higher perspective, and we say, what's the medicine in it? That doesn't say I condone that it happened or it's no big deal. No, we say, oh, it is a big deal. And what is the medicine in here for me? And when we do that, we start to also recognize that there becomes this opportunity. Perhaps the medicine in it was for us to speak about it so we could empower others to speak about it. And all of a sudden, that gives us a sense of meaning. So finding the meaning for self, it's individual, it's completely different. And again, I want to be clear, this is not about condoning any trauma that happens. This is just about saying, okay, this happened. How can I see it from a place that will help me heal and grow and evolve? So to bring that kind of energy into the experience, and to know that at this time, there is a collective reclamation of the second chakra. There is a collective reclamation of safety, inner safety, and a collective effort to clear. I know that this sounds paradoxical because we look around and we say, well, how is that happening if more people are being violated? To your point earlier, it has been happening all along, but something is happening, something is unfolding. And it, to me, looks like this opportunity for us, especially women, to not just women, but anyone who's endured sexual trauma, but in terms of the feminine energy, to release the shame we have ever had about our unique, our truth, our power, our being. And this is true for everyone, for sure. But when we release shame, what we're doing is we're liberating ourselves, because shame is in a sense a tactic to keep us suppressed. And sometimes it becomes internalized and we're doing it to ourselves. So when we release the shame, we liberate the self. And when we liberate the self, we can assist in liberating the collective. And when we look at it like that, it shifts things and helps us see it in a way that is a little bit more empowering, you know?